Antoine Fuqua is what we Hermetic Movieites would call a vulgar auteur. That is, someone who doesn't always make Oscar darlings, but consistently delivers muscular, entertaining genre films with heart, that occasionally gesture to something deeper, but never to the extent that you're distracted from the thrills. He always works with great actors, and has more patience for characters than most action directors working today, who'd rather fill space between set pieces with tiresome, ironic quips.
He said that you were the thirstiest young woman he ever met.
Take the bloody shot!
Fuqua is a very insightful speaker with a fascinating story, and he's someone whose films have been cut to ribbons by studios more than once in very illogical ways. I'll start with a hunch. 2004's King Arthur was the result of Disney hiring Antoine Fuqua, the director of, at that time, Training Day, The Replacement Killers, and Tears of the Sun, to make a dark and gritty reimagining of King Arthur and Camelot, and then saying, Antoine Fuqua, director of Training Day, The Replacement Killers, and Tears of the Sun, why did you make a dark and gritty reimagining of King Arthur and Camelot? We can't sell toys with this. Gladiator was enormously popular at the time, and people had a real stiffy for Roman history as a result. Disney subsidiaries Touchstone and Buena Vista Entertainment wanted to capitalize on that. So this version imagines Arthur as a cavalry officer in the Roman military. He and his men are just finishing a 15-year contract they started in childhood when they're asked to take on one final job: escort a wealthy family in the path of the Saxon army's advance back to Rome. So, a cast of rising stars, including Keira Knightley, fresh off Pirates, the Roman Empire, how could it fail? Well, nostalgia goggles down, my friends, in multiple ways and over two versions. Though one is obviously superior, and like 2003's Peter Pan, it was a nice change of pace from Shrek 2, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and the rest of my family's seatback DVD player collection on 12-hour drives to New Brunswick. When the film was shrugged off by critics and disappointed at the box office, Disney hopped on another bandwagon for the DVD release.
An extended, unrated cut.
The extended version was an excuse to restore the gory combat scenes that wouldn't fly with the little ones. It also adds back a couple smaller scenes with the knights, and repositions a very PG-13 love scene that was shuffled around for some reason. In the theatrical cut, continuity is totally screwed by them changing it. Buddy goes from full armor to looking like he just got laid, with no explanation. Then he goes and gets laid. I guess maybe the idea was to give Guinevere and Arthur more screen time and some space before they shag, so Disney could pretend it was out of true love, certified by an off-screen priest, instead of something two very attractive people about to die in battle might do for pleasure. They wanted a kid-friendly dark and gritty reimagining of King Arthur, damn it. It's ironic then that the Disney on Ice archery skirmish set piece is still the best in the film, in part because it's creatively conceived to fit within that PG-13 label. It's the least doctored in the extended cut. Basically, you've got Arthur and the gang holding the line so a convoy of innocent people can get some distance from the approaching Saxon army. They're better shots, and they're shooting with the wind, so they're able to pick off the Saxons as they advance, aiming at their flanks and clustering them together for juicier opportunities. It's a very geographically and strategically clear battle scene, using the elements and the terrain to shake things up. You have people running back and forth to collect fallen allies, you have the ice breaking and swallowing people. It's really cool stuff. And there's no need for tons of blood and guts, because dudes getting dropped with arrows doesn't really require that. The early convoy attack is also solid, and it's where the unrated content is felt the most consistently for whatever reason. I'm not sure what order they shot the film, but maybe if this was early in the shoot, someone up the chain saw dailies of some of this and went, "Holy shit, tell Antoine to tone it down, this will ruin our line of Lancelot pajamas." The first act of the movie is also the most consistent overall, with action and exposition sandwiched with fun banter from the stacked cast.
What about you, Lancelot? What are your plans for her?
Well, if this woman of Gawain's is as beautiful as he claims, I expect to be spending a lot of time at Gawain's house. His wife will welcome the company.
I see. And what will I be doing?
Wondering at your good fortune that all your children look like me.
Is that before or after I hit you with my axe?
Where the movie kinda goes to hell for me is during this extended sequence on the Roman patriarch Marius's estate, where like 5 different major plot beats happen, multiple rousing speeches are given, characters are introduced and killed, and all of this is thrown at you on one location at top speed, with the threat of the Saxon army literally audible for half of it, and in the next scene they're just fine, on the road like nothing happened.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
Arthur, we have no time.
Also added back in the extended version are small scenes between Lancelot and Guinevere that hint at the famous love triangle from the mythology, but it's pretty half-hearted. As is a lot of the character stuff in this film. While Arthur is initially interesting and sympathetic as this exhausted soldier who learns the ideal he's toiled for is a lie, his actions don't feel like the reasonable result of that internal struggle. Or at the very least, we aren't able to sufficiently understand his decision-making, so the big rousing moments don't land as well as they might have. He just seems to be guided by this vague, do the right thing, save everyone impulse, and though he's constantly warned that he's putting his men's lives at risk for the greater good, there's no consequence to him doing so until the last 10 minutes of the film, when it can do nothing to develop his character. And then again, there's a wedding scene and everyone is fine. The film also tiptoes around a subtle Iraq war parable with ancient Rome standing in for the United States at the height of its powers. The disillusionment of the knights, especially Arthur, is compounded by the fact that, spoilers, the post they've spent their lives protecting is abandoned to the Saxons at the end of the film.
I came to see your face, so that I alone may find you on the battlefield, and it would be good for you to mark my face, Saxon. For the next time you see it, it will be the last thing you see on this earth.
However, despite all its great moments and ideas, I can't get swept up in King Arthur like I used to when I was a kid. The extended version is definitely the better one to watch, but what it brings back to the round table doesn't address the movie's biggest problems. Next time, another Antoine Fuqua film and the extended cut that takes it from a middling action movie to an unsung cult classic.